Alan Moore's Batman: The Killing Joke is often seen as not only one of the greatest Batman and Joker stories, but one of the greatest graphic novels out there. After years of fan demand, this critically acclaimed story finally received an animated adaptation. Was this the adaptation that fans of the story were waiting for, or did it disappoint and leave viewers with nothing more than a bad experience? There will be spoilers for the Killing Joke animated film in this review, so I suggest you watch that first, and then return here after you have seen it. With that out of the way, let's take a look and see what this film had to offer and find out what it delivers. The first thing that people will notice about The Killing Joke is the fact that it's rated R. Now, before the film came out, I didn't think it needed to be rated R because while the source material was a dark story, it wasn't rated R material. Having seen the film, I can honestly say there is nothing in it that really merits the R rating. The film easily could have been PG-13 and not anything in it would have really changed. It seems the film was only rated R because having an R-rated animated Batman film would make the film seem darker or edgier than it really was. It was given the R rating merely to stand out, to make headlines, and it honestly didn't need it. And that's really a disappointment. Before the actual Killing Joke adaptation starts, there's a roughly 30-minute story focusing on Barbara Gordon and telling how she gave up being Batgirl. This story seems to be a very loose adaptation of the one-shot Batgirl special leading up to the Killing Joke. However, the Batgirl story in the Killing Joke film and the Batgirl special have nothing in common other than being the story of Barbara Gordon's last adventure as Batgirl. Barbara's story in the Killing Joke focuses on her trying to take down an up-and-coming crime boss, Paris Franz, who has been smitten with her. Paris is a character created solely for the story, and he's a very generic mob boss villain. He uses advanced technology of the modern age to try to take everything from his uncle and win over Barbara. By the end, Paris is taken down by Batgirl, and he's never mentioned again. This first part of the film was added in for two different reasons. First of all, the Killing Joke is really not that long of a story, and if they hadn't added this part in, it would have only been 35 or 40 minutes long. Secondly, this was added in to give character development for Barbara. One common complaint about the Killing Joke was that Barbara was only a plot device and not a character. With this story, we would get to know Barbara as a character before she was shot and paralyzed by the Joker. This was a great idea, and I honestly would have loved spending time building up to Barbara's paralyzation. However, Barbara's story felt a lot more like filler, and it didn't help her character because of how disconnected it was from the main Killing Joke story. After her part ends, it's never mentioned at all. Barbara's story should have tied into the Killing Joke rather than being its own thing, otherwise it feels like two separate films and not one long film. Half of the film seems to be about Batgirl, and the other half seems to be about the Joker. And that just doesn't work, because this story is a reflection on Batman and the Joker. There's one more huge problem with Batgirl's story, but I'll get to that part later. Once we get to the actual Killing Joke part of the film, things get much better, but even that part has some issues. There are a lot of added scenes to pad out the rest of the film. There are a lot more action and fighting scenes than there were in the original. This normally would not be an issue at all, but the fighting actually affects the story in this case. In the Killing Joke, Batman is tired of fighting and he really just wants to talk things over with the Joker. He only fights when he really has to at the end. Here though, he is seen fighting several times. Other added scenes include the Joker having Commissioner Gordon putting Batman on trial, Batman asking a group of prostitutes if they know where the Joker is since he always visits them when he breaks out of Arkham, and several scenes of Batman interrogating criminals to try and find the Joker. Most of these added scenes are only padding to make the film longer and don't really add anything. Some of these scenes actually take away from the film in fact. As previously mentioned, the added fight scenes make it hard to see the fact that Batman is tired of fighting and he wants to end his and the Joker's eternal struggle. The scene with Batman interrogating prostitutes adds to the implication that the Joker raped Barbara Gordon, since they say he must have found a new girl to have fun with. But Alan Moore already stated the Joker didn't rape Barbara, so the implication really doesn't seem to fit in here. Batman also kills two of the Joker's minions in the film by pushing them down the trap of spikes that was set for him. One last change is the fact that they use the names Batman and the Joker, whereas in the original comic, Batman and the Joker are never used or said. This really seems like a small change and could be seen as a nitpick, however it really does mean a lot considering what Batman and Joker represent for this story. Having their names said takes away from the representation of their characters and makes it much more literal. Adding in scenes is always nice because it offers a new interpretation of the source material, and it would be boring to see the exact same thing. However, in this case, most of what was added seemed to ruin what could have been a great adaptation. DC has proven they can do adaptations well before, and they have amazing adaptations, such as Under the Red Hood, Flashpoint Paradox, Justice League War, yet here the adaptation really just fell short. For the voice cast, this film just didn't hold back. It brought back Kevin Conroy, Mark Hamill, and Tara Strong to voice Batman, the Joker, and Batgirl. Hamill brought the same amount of energy to the Joker that he always did. However, Kevin Conroy's performance of the Batman seemed weaker than usual. Despite having voiced the character for so many years and being known as the best Batman by fans, he just didn't really seem into this. A lot of his lines felt weak and dull, as if he wasn't doing anything for the role. Even his laugh at the end felt a little forced, and he just wasn't into it. Just compare the laugh he delivered here to the laugh he did in one of the episodes of Batman the Animated Series, which was one of the first times he ever voiced Batman. I can only wonder why Kevin Conroy's performance was as weak as it was, but it did lessen the enjoyment. One last note is that hearing Kevin Conroy's Batman say, "swear to me," felt forced and awkward when compared to Christian Bale's Batman saying it. The animation in this film kind of seems a little dull and doesn't really do anything to bring the story to life. It's based very heavily on the recolored version of The Killing Joke rather than the original colors, but even then it doesn't have much going for it. Compare any of the scenes from The Killing Joke to its comic counterpart, and you can see the comic looks much better. DC's animation is usually one of the things that is best for it, yet this film is really lacking. For a story such as this one, where the visuals add so much and have such an impact, making the film look as bland and dull as they did really hurts the narrative and the overall enjoyment. Finally, let's get to the most controversial part of the film, the relationship between Batgirl and Batman, as well as the sex scene between them. Or I should say sex tease, because that's the only thing it is, a tease. Now, I will admit, this isn't the first time they've had a relationship together. It was heavily implied they had a history together in Batman Beyond and in Batman Mystery of the Batwoman. Both of these, along with The Killing Joke, were worked on by Bruce Timm. Other than these instances though, there hasn't been any history between them. Barbara and Bruce always had a mentor relationship, as well as a bond that parallels one of father and daughter. Making these two characters have sex serves absolutely nothing in the long run. It's never mentioned after Barbara's story is over. It isn't used as a character motivation for Batman or the Joker, and it isn't even shown to be a reason why Barbara gave up being Batgirl. All that sex scene between the two of them is badly written and poorly executed fan service for Bruce Timm, since he wants the two of them to be a thing together. For many fans, this scene was awkward and uncomfortable, and really felt out of place. Overall, I unfortunately have to say that Batman The Killing Joke animated adaptation was just plain garbage. It took a great story, added several new scenes that ruined the source material. The first half of the film is so disconnected from the second half of the film in an attempt to develop Barbara as a character, yet it fails due to how separate and distinct each half is. Bruce and Barbara's relationship is awkward given the history the two characters have. What disappoints more is the fact that this had the potential to be great, given how many people working on it have amazing track records, yet things just didn't work out. What did you think of The Killing Joke? Did you find it to be a good adaptation, or do you agree it was a disappointment and just wasted opportunity? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Either way, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time!